Welcome to the Finance Savvy CEO series. I'm your host, Marguerite Presley Davis, former Wall Street financial analyst turned financial strategist for small business owners and entrepreneurs, a financial expert, angel investor, speaker, author, and creator of Your Profit Playbook. This is a series where I take you by the hand to calm the confusion and overwhelm over finances, to give you step-by-step strategies to help you master the financial side to running a business and ultimately transform you into a finance-savvy CEO. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Finance Savvy CEO. This week we are diving into a super important topic all about skimming on expenses. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So what I want to talk about this week is all around this notion of skimming on expenses. And here's what I mean. I get a question quite often that goes something like this. Marguerite, I am just starting up, or I don't have a ton of money, and I'm wondering where are the areas of expenses in my business can I cut corners? Where can I skim? So here's the easy version, you guys. I'm going to go through 7 expenses that you absolutely cannot skim on when you're just starting your business. Okay? So let's go ahead and tackle number 1. Number 1 of the expenses you can't skim on is those business setup fees. So those are things that I'm talking about, like getting your business registered, getting that business license. Now, here's why you don't want to skim on those. If your business is not set up correctly, you're not going to be able to legally do business, right? So without that registration, without that business license, there's no business, right? You're not legally registered with your state to do business, and you could do it, right? You can conduct your business without it, but it's not a legal way of conducting your business. And you want to be a CEO, I know you don't want to have a jackleg type of business that's not registered properly. So there's fees associated with it, right? You have your annual registration fees that you have to do. You have your business license fees that you have to pay for. So don't skim on these. I know you want to get started, and I know you're super excited about hitting the ground running, but if you want a legitimate business, you cannot skim on those business setup fees, okay? Number 2, you cannot skim on legal advice. So when I say don't skim on legal advice, when you think about what I just mentioned in step 1 around the setup of your business, there may be things that also go along with that setup, such as trademarking or copywriting. Sometimes you may want legal advice as far as, are you using the appropriate structure for your business? And lawyers are really great on giving that type of advice. Now, here's why I say don't skim on it. There are definitely less expensive resources to a lawyer, such as LegalZoom, things of that nature. But I always say don't skim on the legal front when it comes to you're just getting started in your business, because if you don't, you'll get that sound advice that'll allow you to structure your business appropriately. So as you go down the line, you may be able to avoid a bigger expense had you not taken care of it in the beginning and gotten yourself taken care of as far as, hey, I'm protected by this trademark, or hey, I'm protected by this patent, copyright, the whole 9. So I always advise on that, you guys. Don't skim out on the legal advice when you're just getting started. All right, number 3 is marketing dollars. I don't want you to skim on marketing dollars, and I know this is a hard one, so we're going to break this one down. So when it comes to marketing dollars spent, it's really hard when you're first getting started because you don't actually have any customers just yet. So when you think about having to spend money before you make money, it's a little challenging. So let's think of it this way. You're going to want to have a bucket of marketing dollars that is set aside when you very first start, okay? Because the thing is you can have a great idea. You can be awesome at what you do. However, if no one knows about this great idea you have or that great business that you have, it's just that. It's a great idea, but with no customers. So I know it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg game, but there's no way to avoid putting aside money in the very beginning for marketing dollars so that you can get the word out about your brand. Now, I am no way saying that you have to splurge in the beginning, because ultimately what I do recommend is you use a little bit of marketing spend in the beginning, you get your brand out there, and you're able to then generate revenue that you're going to funnel back into your business. But first, there's no way around having to spend a bit on marketing dollars. Now, of course, you'll hear me always constantly talking about the power of word of mouth, right? That is the best free marketing that you can get. But again, the nuance here is when you're just getting started, you may not have that word of mouth yet. And so it will require you to put some dollars aside, even if it's things for like promotions or certain shows, if that makes sense for the type of industry or business that you're in. Okay? All right, number 4, you can't skim out on financial support, okay? So here's what I want to dive deep into when I say financial support. So when you're talking about financial support, there's certain things that you need to do from the beginning as far as financial system setup. So I'm talking about things like your bookkeeping system. What is the bookkeeping system you're going to buy, right? A lot of these bookkeeping systems may only be free for a certain volume or for a certain period of time, but likely there's going to be a fee that's associated with getting your bookkeeping set up. But more important than getting your bookkeeping set up when I talk about the financial support, I'm talking about things such as that CFO or that financial advisor that you're using. Here's what's key here. When you get your business set up financially properly from the very, very beginning, what you're doing is you're creating what I'm going to call you're creating the baseline for your business of a sound foundation. You're making sure that as those transactions come in, that you've already thought about where you're going to put those expenses. And if you listen to a previous episode, I talk about the library. I talk about the library of expenses, making sure that all your expenses and your revenues are categorized properly. That takes some time to do, right? So I want you to go and listen to that episode. It's all about the financial hygiene. So I'll add a link below so you can refer to that episode. But at any rate, one of the keys is when you're setting up your financial library and you're figuring out where all of your expenses should go, the whole nine, it's going to take you some time, advising if you don't have a financial background or if you don't feel like that's your strong suit, consulting with a financial professional will definitely help you out there. Part of this financial support too, it includes setting up your financial plan from the very beginning. You know that one of the things that I teach all the time is setting up your financial plan from the beginning. What you'll do is you'll save yourself a lot of heartache down the line behind trying to untangle expenses, trying to make sure that every dollar that you have, that you're generating in your business, it has a home. So don't skim out on this. Get that financial plan set up from the very beginning, as well as make sure all of your expense library, your bookkeeping is set up properly. So the next one that I want to talk about is systems automations. Now here's why this one is really important. I want you to think about the bigger picture of your business, right? And you think about maybe now you're just starting out and you have a few customers. Maybe you have a handful of customers. And to do things manually, it's pretty easy, right? When your customer base is small, you have processes that you do in your business that you can do manually. That's just the matter of the nature of having a small customer base. But I always want you to think about any process that you do that's manual, that works for maybe a handful of customers or whatever customer base that is that you have, that you can do a process manually. Would you be able to do it manually and it not be a headache if you take that customer number and you multiply it by 10? Okay, so let's say I have 10 customers right now, and for those 10 customers, I'm able to do a single process in my business manually, right? Now, multiply that by 10, so now I have 100 customers. Would this be a nightmare to do that exact same process that I'm doing now manually for 100 customers compared to when it was 10? Likely, the answer is absolutely yes. It's going to be so much more challenging. So I bring this example up because the area that you should not skim on is systems automation, because any manual process that you do, if you can automate it from the very beginning, you're already thinking ahead to growing and scaling your business, right? Because if you're doing it manual now and you wait to automate it later, there's this whole process that happens of having to translate what you've already done manually into an automated fashion and trying to untangle it. Now, you're definitely going to want to use discernment behind what systems you can afford to automate in the beginning versus which ones you can't. But those most critical processes that are essential to your business flow, those are the ones you want to look at first. Ask yourself, is there a possibility for me to automate it? If it's yes, that's where I want you to dive into and consider using dollars up front to automate that process. Okay? All right, so the next area that I want to go into that I don't want you to skim on is networking events. Okay, now this one may be a counterintuitive to what you're thinking. I'm going to tell you why. Peer networking is one of the most valuable things that you can do for your business when you're just getting started. I think constantly we always think about, well, I want to level up, right? And you want to talk to someone who can help you get that next customer. And we always think about maybe bigger companies than ourselves or people who are in the position that we want to be in. And that's great. But I don't want you to underestimate your peer network. A lot of times your peer network, they've been where you are recently, or they're trying to go to the same place that you are. They may have individuals in their network that are perfect for your business. It could be your perfect customer match. And so what we often do as entrepreneurs and as business owners is we're tired from all the day-to-day work that we do, and we want to cancel on that networking event, right? But here's the thing is, networking events are a really low-cost way of being able to build brand awareness. So while most networking events, you can find free networking events, but a lot of the professional services that you may be in have different associations that may have a fee, or there may just be networking fees associated with a particular event. And while I know at the end of a long day, when you're tired, the whole nine, the thought of having to pay for a networking event can be daunting, and it can be that first thing on our list that we want to skip. But you guys, the expense is so worth it. The peer networking that happened, the brand awareness, the ability to get your brand out there for the cost that you pay, so worth it. All right, and now the very last tip, number 7 of the expense that I don't want you to skim on, is self-care. You guys, you put more work in the early stages of your business than at any other time. That's just the matter of fact. It's your baby, you're trying to grow it, you're trying to scale it, the whole nine. And oftentimes, the first thing that we let go is our own self-care. But here's the reality. You cannot perform at your optimal level for your customers, for yourself, if you have not first focused on that self-care. So while you may not be generating as much of revenue, as much profit as you want in the very early stages of your business, you're going to be paying yourself. And, we talk about paying yourself on a different episode. So we'll talk all about, what it means to pay yourself. But some of that you're paying yourself, use it for self-care. You'll see how you taking care of yourself will allow you to grow your profits within your business. So there you have it. Those are my 7 expenses that I say you should not skim on, although you may be on a tight budget when you're just getting started. These are super, super worth it and can pay you back big time. So thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, and I will talk to you next week.